He pointed at you.
That was the signal.
Let's go.
He pointed at you.
I pointed at you.
Oh, it was at me.
That was at you.
Oh, I thought it was.
We got the SIG.
All right.
Aren't you supposed to be leading the show?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Okay, let's do that.
This is episode 29 of the Here's the Deal podcast, the Max Baker Jr. story. I hear you're infamous. I heard that from a few people.
Do you know what infamous means, Max?
I have no idea.
We had
It's not the
Siri
same
tell
as,
us.
it's not the same as famous.
I mean,
I think that's incorrect. Whoever said that was totally wrong because you are totally famous.
Yeah.
I think they got it wrong.
Yeah.
Well,
you know how I know?
How?
Because Chips Enough came up to the cap booth at Rocklahoma and didn't say one thing about Greg Zubek or Hot Mama contest or anything. He mentioned the Here's the Deal podcast.
That's awesome.
Well, there
It's
you go.
my buddy, you know.
You are famous.
So
I gave him some of those concert patches with Enough's Enough on them.
You do?
Well, you found some.
I found some, and I gave them to him whenever I saw him at Rocklahoma.
Oh, wow.
I think I got one of those.
You do?
The collector passes?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I got one.
So I am Jay Ramone, Max Baker Jr. to my right, Jeff Brownen on the right of Max, and he has been the fact checker, head researcher, and historian for this podcast. And I'm thankful that you are on board, Jeff, to bring all of the different pieces that you've collected over the years. I don't know if you knew that later on in life that information would be used for a podcast for historical purposes.
Well, there was no such thing as a podcast.
Correct.
Right.
So, that's why you may be part Terminator, maybe.
Well, my dad always
don't
told me
know.
that I ought to write a book about all this stuff, but it's like, no one would read it. And
Well,
and I don't have the patience
Now it's
to
an
write it.
audio book.
It'd
Or
be an
you-
audio book.
Or you go back to like the late great David Huff, who was a writer, and he's for years pounded my head. Hey, you should write. You should put this down. The things that happen to you and stuff, or the events that you do and all that. Well, with Jeff, most of the events we've done together up to 2002, and still some. But we started down in the trenches, if you want to call it. And
we're still in the trenches
and we're
today.
still in the trenches today, but
It's 2023 and we're in the trenches still.
But and we're getting ready to tell something that people have wondered about.
And then that was Josh Lupton behind the board in the camera who chimed in, who did speak to Chips Enough and give him those patches at Rocklahoma. And now I understand why you guys gave somebody like me a chance in the trenches just starting out, because you guys were big figures doing big things when I met you, and I was as green as they come, barely 20 years old, trying to figure out how to do this stuff. And I'm thankful that you guys helped me out along the way.
Well, the thing about that is we were you once, whether it be in a different format or whatever, but we were you. It's like when I started in the entertainment business, I'm a fan. I'm still a fan today, and I wanted to figure out, how do I get in there, Photographs, then driving the band, then booking and working the shows.
You just took a different route than we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just hustled the same way to try and figure out my
But
way
it all
in.
comes together, like-minded people think together. And as a team, you can do great things. And all three of us sitting here have done some pretty cool things that, whether we get credit for it or not, you can know, hey, man, I did that, or I was part of that, or,
And we've seen a lot of shows together.
And it's like Machine Head, 20 years later. Who did the first Machine Head show in Oklahoma City? Me. Why? Because I wanted to, and it was at Bricktown Live, and so that's a band that has, if they had not have played here, they might not have ever been here.
So this episode we are going to dedicate solely to Slipknot.
Oh, you know why?
And this is because
It's the 23rd anniversary.
we've heard so many stories about this particular show that was January 11th, 2000 at the Tower Theater. And so much of it was bullshit, and so much of it was rumors that had been overhyped and spread. And some of it was just simply because when a story goes from one person to the next and on down the line, that fish continues to get bigger and bigger that was on the end of that hook. And so between message boards and word of mouth, that legendary story made it seem like you caught a 400-pound catfish that day, Max, is kind of the way I saw
most
it.
people that tell the story weren't there.
Correct. It's like all those people who say they were there watching the White Stripes at the Green Door. We know how many people that venue can hold.
It's not possible.
Or the people that were at the Slipknot show, it's just like, I lived it,
So let's start from the very beginning. August 20th, 1999, you had a show booked at the Tower Theater. Coal Chamber, Machine Head, Slipknot, and Orange 9mm.
Yes.
Now, this was going into Catfest weekend, which was Steve Miller and George Thorogood and Motley Crue and Scorpions.
But it was a heavily sold show. It wasn't sold out.
So this was the day before the Catfest weekend began. So at this time, Coal Chamber had, 2 singles at radio?
No, they had Loco
and Big Truck.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the height for Coal Chamber. And I can't remember what the single was for Machine Head, but they were getting a little bit of play. I don't know if they got it here, but I know they did in Tulsa a little bit.
That was still on their first record because we had done them the summer before.
Okay. And so Slipknot and then Orange 9mm opening. So tell me about...
Now, Slipknot had never been here before.
Slipknot, the whole package, it was a package. One of them Roadrunner packages like you talk about. And, the Tower Theater is a old movie theater. That's probably it is the best theater in Oklahoma for live music. So, but you only have so much stage space. And then if you were to add staging onto it, like we've done so many times before, it was getting into, now you're right up on the crowd, you're right up on the front. And so that day on the 20th, then all bands were up. Coal Chamber was up. They set their gear. They don't move. Machine Head's up. They set their gear. They don't move. Then what left space was for Slipknot. You got 9 people, and
there wasn't space for 9 people.
But the only way you could have fixed it is if a band would have moved a piece over here, an amp out of the way, and been workable.
And the scene was very competitive back then.
Yes,
where these bands were always trying. They were always trying to one up each other.
Exactly.
So in my quick idea thinking, and there was a buzz about Slipknot.
So how much space were you short?
A lot.
A lot?
I don't even think we could have got 4 people up there in that area.
No, but they were arguing over a very small amount of stage.
Yeah, I mean,
they wanted another foot.
Basically, they had been in that situation before, but not quite as bad. And and like I said, a few simple. We'll take this out of the way. We'll move this over here.
Slipknot wanted them to move their stuff back like a foot and a half. Give them just a little bit of room. There's 9 members in the band, and they move around on the stage. They weren't asking for that much.
Right.
But those first 2 bands had set, and they were done, and they weren't coming back until it was showtime.
And it also comes back down to, Slipknot's a new band on the road. Their buzz is happening. And you know what? You got these bands that are on after them that, they're like
their tour support budget's probably getting cut.
Well, no, you got a hot, young and up and coming band kicking ass, and the other bands are going to have to work.
Mm-hmm.
So
there was no space left for Orange 9mm either.
Yeah, but they played.
They did play.
They played.
All right,
they moved around.
So Slipknot makes the decision. Their stuff's not going to fit. They're not going to play.
So and they liked the room. They liked the theater. And they
liked you.
And we
made a deal with you.
They were like, we hit it. We hit it good. I understand what they were coming to. And basically, we were just trying to be that venue.
So,
and so
10 days later.
So what happened was I worked a deal. Jimmy Johnson, singer of Element, he's working, and
He's working at your tower.
Yeah, that's where we just had the record store open. Yeah, the tower location. It was all coming together. Thought it was a cool place, the whole thing, and so we get an idea, and we talk to the tour manager. Hey man, y'all want to come back. So they found a hole,
An
off day on a Monday, 10 days later, that they wanted to come play here.
In other words, the package wasn't playing.
It was just them. It had been Slipknot headlining.
They were just routing back through.
And you know what? They were picking up some more money. Greatest thing about it was it enabled me to find 3 local bands.
Element,
Lowlife,
and Hollow.
Huh? No, not Hollow. It was just Lowlife. It was Lowlife and Element.
An Element.
Yes. Okay. And Slipknot. So
Jerry and Jimmy.
You got Jerry Lowlife over here, Ronnie, Jimmy, Mike, Gary, Nate. They're getting to play for these bands and having the record store, we were able to get in on who's hot, And I mean, the way I see it, and it's always said, if you wear a mask, or you paint your face, you're going to be huge.
And Jeff, it doesn't say on here, do we know how many people the makeup show on the 30th
I think it's 400.
I do not know.
I thought it was,
I could not find records on that.
We said once before, but it was around 400.
Yes.
It was around 400 people. I know that. And that show went off without a hitch. No problem.
I mean, it was like magic. Everybody had a great time. Everybody remembered. It was badass.
Okay.
It was like a promoter's dream. And plus it went off so well that they're telling me, okay, we got a major tour coming out in January, and we want to put one of these stops on here. It's just like, now you've got a connection. And, and back in the day, it was about if you wanted bands, it's just like when I booked Pantera and stuff like that. It was all because I knew them. I didn't go through no booking agency. I didn't this. This one, we were starting to go through booking agencies. And
but when a band had a good time and you have this one-on-one with them, you could say, hey, you guys need to come back and play this.
Call your agent. Tell them.
I still have venues I work at now that, major rock stars come and they say, we want to play here, so they have a say in it. And
so at that point, you thought you were building up that kind of relationship with Slipknot. In fact, you were at that point.
Yeah, Territorial, coming back, hopefully. So, here comes January.
Now, by January of 2000, Wait and Bleed had been on whatever movie soundtrack it was.
Was it at that?
And then it was released as a single. And
Dee Snider's thing?
I think so. And then it was released as a single on their first major label record with Roadrunner, and it was actually a hit at radio.
And then they still had Headbangers Ball, didn't they?
They talk about the lack of support from radio and MTV, but that video and that song got a lot of play at the places that I worked.
Right.
So I don't know where, it may not have been supported in Iowa where they're from, but I know in Oklahoma, radio stations played the dog mess out of Wait and Bleed.
Well, and it was late at night or whatever the case may be, but we were rolling at the Tower coming into 2000.
So January 11th, 2000. Now, we know that the offer sheets that went out to agents for shows that you were booking at the Tower Theater was set at the capacity of the room at 1,000 people.
Because that was the number that was on the wall.
And that was the number that was on the wall, was 1,000 people.
Just like in any venue you walk into, there's a number on the wall.
Yeah,
you're required to have it there. So the number on the wall is the number you go by.
And currently the Tower Theater's capacity in 2022 is 1,014. So 14 more than what you were offering back then.
And that's with seats too.
With seats. Okay. So this day gets kind of crazy because there were so many different variations of what I have been told. But we know that Slipknot, with 9 members in the band and as much gear as they had, they also had several buses and a pretty big crew as well to be able to pull it all off.
And they were headlining.
Yeah.
And they were the headliner.
It was their first headlining tour, and I think it was like one of the first shows on their new tour at the Millennium. They were, like you said, they were on that radio. They were getting some buzz. See,
this was just 4.5 months after that very first Slipknot day.
And they were blowing up. And I can remember like it was yesterday, driving there to the tower and pulling on 23rd, and also during that time, they were building.
Hold on. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's talk about the climate in Oklahoma City at that time. At that time, the city of Oklahoma City was knee-deep in several maps projects. Of
the early maps.
Very early.
And the gentrification of certain neighborhoods that they wanted to kind of rebuild and redo and turn around. And at that time, 23rd Street not only was very run down, it was dangerous. It was a dangerous place to be.
That's why we got the tower so cheap.
But no, it was in the tower sign didn't work. The buildings were empty.
It was a rundown part of Oklahoma City.
Big Truck Tacos was not across the street.
No. If you were there after dark on the street, then you were doing something wrong.
Okay, so that day of that show, there was some sort of ribbon cutting ceremony happening on 23rd
Correct.
Street.
Because they had taken, and the meridian that still is today.
The median.
The median. That still is today was being unveiled that day.
They started the 23rd Street Urban Renewal Project or whatever. Yep. And so, because there didn't used to be the median in the middle, and I mean, it's a lot different than it is today. And they were down there doing the actual ribbon cutting.
I mean, a big deal TV and everything. And then here you go, you pull in, and I can remember going, oh, wow. Because like you said, there were buses, there wasn't just one or two. There were buses and semis parked all on 23rd.
And Slipknot fans were not that far off from the look of Juggalo fans. Black Jinkos, lots of black hair, spiked belts.
All the same together, But
normal Oklahoma blue hairs are not going to appreciate Slipknot's fans.
I can remember everybody parking. It's going to be a great day. But the weirdest thing that happened, right at some dude pulls up, rolls down the window, and he tells me, "You guys better be on your P's and Q's," And I mean, I'm just like, "Hey, we got it covered, no problem. We're gonna have a great day." Didn't know who the guy was, didn't anything, and so we all went about our business.
Okay, how many tickets had you sold leading up to the day of the show?
Like I said, the capacity was 1,000. I think.
Did we still have tickets for sale?
Yeah, when we opened the door that morning, I think we had like close to 300 tickets left to sell.
So you had sold 700 tickets.
700 right in that area.
Okay.
And so we knew it was going to be good. And it was like, well.
Let me throw in at this time, all those tickets were printed. There was a manifest. There was 1,000 tickets printed.
Only.
No more. There's a ticket manifest. It was all legit. There was 1,000 tickets. Period. Go on.
Okay, so did you ever find out who the guy who came by and rolled down the window?
No, it was some kind of city official.
He was in that ribbon cutting deal.
He was at that ribbon cutting street, and the crazy part about it. So we're selling tickets. People are walking up. The store's open. Choice Music Tower. And the band's in there, they're playing my Kiss pinball machine, kind of like, because it was used as a dressing room as well. And, they'd go around, and we had all this gear laid out, records. And they were actually going to take that pinball machine and put it on their semi. They were going to buy it.
And everything was shaping up to be the perfect day.
Before it was autographed.
Yes.
And you were going to sell it.
Yes.
What were you going to sell it for?
Probably more than it was worth.
Well, I mean,
you wouldn't think about selling that thing today.
Well, it's a whole different animal. But you got to remember, this was a store, and the offer was made, and my whole idea was, if it's going to go out the door, then people ask me where that pinball machine is. I sold it to Slipknot. Yeah.
But you got to understand, at this point in the day, it's a great day.
It ain't every day that you have people coming in shopping. Just like, I've had shoppers before in my store, but I had to take them there.
And
this is where they're there.
And then also, as this day was building, it's like, you know, you kind of keep track of how many tickets are left, and it's in the day gets a feel to it, and it felt like it was going to be a sellout, and it felt like, and like you said, the record store was full, the ribbons had been cut.
You know, it's like
it was almost
it's like what could go wrong. So as the thing's building.
Okay, what time are doors? Like 6 o'clock?
Yeah, like 6, something like that.
Probably 6 o'clock door, 7 o'clock show.
Yeah, because it was 4 bands.
Okay, so
Correct.
what time did the fire marshal show up?
So what happened was, there was 3 bands. What happened was, doors get open, things are happening. The outside is starting to build. Like, hey man, you know, they got a line for tickets, and we're going, this line's going to end because we're going to be out.
And another thing was, there wasn't parking down there for all those people.
Right, that parking lot that's across the street, that wasn't
It's still,
there.
and it's still that bad today, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But it was worse then because
Yeah.
there was no parking lot across the street.
So then you have all these people on this one side that needs a ticket, and you know you're selling them until you're getting ready to be out. And I can remember going down. Then we were down to like the last 16.
And you bought them all. And were
No,
holding on to them.
I didn't buy anything, but we were down to the last 16, and there was a shit ton of people out there, you know. And it's like, and at that point, right about that time, both the opening acts had played. Slipknot's gear was being unveiled. You know, it was like ready to go.
So we're into the. The show.
we're like 2 bands deep.
Two acts down.
You know, the main act coming on in about 15 minutes, and within about a 15-minute ordeal, you know, with the.
And by the way, we were already sold out at that point.
You know, so here they come, and their reasoning was, we were too many people, and we're like 1,000, and they're like, downtown's just 880, and where they kept the
capacity on the
where they got it was a brand new year. We didn't go through the occupancy, and you know, it's like we were 6 months new into it, you know.
You didn't get rezoned at the time.
Well, it wasn't even our deal. It was the
number
was
on
the
the
landlords.
wall. The number on the wall said 1,000, and it
Yeah.
was signed by the fire marshal and dated by the fire marshal.
This number just wasn't arbitrarily painted on the wall.
No. It's like
people thought it was painted on there, but that we had a number all along.
It's a certificate. If you go into any bar,
There's a certificate issued by
any
the fire
restaurant, and you have to have it posted, and it has to be signed by the fire marshal. It's standard operating procedure. Period.
And that's what was on the wall.
That's what was on the wall, and
you gotta
that's what had
remember-
been on the wall for the 6 months that we'd been doing shows there.
Because they'd been in before. I mean, think about it. Rock bands on 23rd Street. Tower.
Back up. We could not open the tower until they gave their okay on it. Because every venue, every year, the fire marshal does an annual inspection, and you cannot be open unless you have had your annual inspection. The tower had been closed until
And
Max
the landlord had to do it.
So they had to bring him in. The fire marshal had to okay the building to be open 6 months ago. So
It's not like you were throwing a rave in 1992
Right.
and you were picking an abandoned building and just
correct.
making it work.
everything was, as far as we knew, was legal and above board
Right.
and honest. And here's another thing: you wouldn't put in offers to agents and give the wrong capacity.
No.
You're screwed. They will. You cheat on a capacity, and you won't get sold another show.
Yeah, especially in 2000.
And so, we thought everything was on the up and up. Now, what they say is that the number downtown was different. They said it was 880.
880 is what we have here.
Okay. And
Jeff, let me just commend you for the research you've done for this, because I kind of told you what I needed to know factually to make, because I wanted this episode to be 100% legitimate. I wanted the naysayers. I wanted this to be completely factual.
Oh, it's going to be by the time we're done.
And these numbers,
the real story will be told.
Yeah.
these numbers that Jeff is providing as far as capacity have been verified and checked downtown Oklahoma City. 880 was the capacity that was on file at that time downtown.
Correct.
But 1,000 was what was okayed
changed
by the fire
overnight.
marshal on the wall.
Right.
Now, what I would like to see is what the date was that the fire marshal signed the 880 and what the date was of the thing signed on the wall.
Yeah, because we never could
it's
get to that once it all played out.
Yeah, it was all done.
But with 2020 hindsight, if it had been today in 2023, when everyone's listening to this, I would have had my camera there. I'd have taken a picture of that occupancy.
Oh, absolutely. But we didn't have
exactly.
that. Couldn't take a picture on your phone back then.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, obviously everybody knows the show did not happen. So we're gonna fast forward to 2022, and the band Wasp playing at a venue in Dallas, Texas, Amplified Live, which is the former Gas Monkey Bar and Grill or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
So Wasp scheduled to play at Amplified Live. Fire Marshal comes in. This show was oversold by like 800 tickets or something like that.
After two bands played.
After two bands play, and they cancel. Same situation, basically.
All the way.
Except
a lot more oversold.
Right.
A lot more oversold. And the difference is that guy didn't get all his shows pulled, isn't getting death threats. It just happened like this is what happened. No big deal. It got oversold.
And everybody got their money back. And when is Wasp coming back to Dallas?
Right. So let me, since we did say some negative things about Amplified Live, I will say this as someone who has seen a show in that venue. I saw a show on the inside room, not the outside. And the show was incredible. The sound was incredible. The production was incredible. I ate dinner there before the show.
Yeah, that's good.
And the steak fingers were incredible.
You and I were going to go there about this time last year.
We were going to go see Suicidal Tendencies, but me being in a wheelchair, I had a different view of it.
Right.
That, if I wanted to buy VIP, I couldn't go out on the deck. I couldn't get up there. I had to sit in the back, and it was just not.
It's not a friendly. It's not an ADA friendly venue.
Correct. And so, but I've been over to the other one, which was Gas Monkey Live, and it was badass.
Where was the other one?
The other one was like they used to have Gas Monkey, or they still do, and then
the garage.
The Gas Monkey Live is next door to. There's a movie theater over there that does. You can wine and dine, and it's just like a block away. It's very big. I saw Saxon and
where Amplified Live. Inside, it was a fantastic room, and the food was phenomenal.
And THC's played out on the outside on the lab. It's very, if it's oversold or overpacked, you can't move around.
Okay, so we're going to get back on topic here with Slipknot, but you basically got canceled because of this, and the promoter in Dallas, they're still doing shows, no big deal, even though they oversold that venue way more than what you have ever oversold any venue. So,
back to the Slipknot show. This show was not oversold
at all.
So back in the day, there was a magazine that was for promoters.
There was two of them. Polestar and Performance.
There's still one today, Polestar. Polestar still happens.
And it's just online, and it's a subscription service.
Yeah. I don't think you can get actual physical copy.
But back then, they had an actual magazine.
Yeah, they would send them out to all the booking agents, all the
venues, promoters, the agencies would have them.
It's like the Holy Grail, the Bible. If you were
so, I'm gonna read this article that was in Polestar magazine. Now, it doesn't say on here, Jeff, who the author was, because I'd love to credit the author.
No, it's just written by.
But it was released January 17th of 2000 in Polestar magazine.
So this is six days after.
Six days after the show. And
this is national news.
It says, major capacity slip is the headline. Blame it on the uninformed venue manager or the overly concerned headlining band or the by-the-books fire inspectors. Whatever the reason, Slipknot's recent Oklahoma City concert was a disaster for all parties involved. The up-and-coming metal rockers bowed out of their January 11th slot at the Tower Theater after fire prevention officials said the venue exceeded its capacity forcing the removal of as many as a couple hundred concert goers who received refunds. But the fun didn't stop there. The group took its paycheck and announced to the remaining crowd of approximately 800 that it would not perform, although fire inspectors allowed the show to continue with the lowered audience total. Basically, the band's feeling was that it was unfair for them to play for anybody at that point, Slipknot's agent Dave Kirby of the agency group told Polestar. The group's announcement infuriated the remaining crowd, resulting in a borderline riot-type situation, said promoter David Fitzgerald of DCF Concerts. Enraged concertgoers voiced their disapproval and caused minor damage to the venue, but no injuries or arrests were reported. The result has Kirby attempting to reschedule a makeup date for next month at a larger venue. Fitzgerald faces the possibility of twice paying the backstage costs for promoting the rescheduled date and the failed concert. And Tower Theater manager Max Baker Jr. must deal with a $750 overcapacity citation from the fire marshal. Baker said he was under the assumption we were a 1,000-seat capacity venue because I took over the building from somebody else 6 months ago. We were told one thing when we rented the building by the owner and another figure by the fire marshals today, he told Polestar. According to Baker and Fitzgerald, ticket sales were below the 900 mark, less than the assumed venue capacity. However, Oklahoma City Fire Marshal said his fire inspectors estimated attendance at more than 1,000. City Fire Marshal John Seuss said the building's capacity was posted at 880 according to records, but upon inspection during the show, he discovered fixed seats were missing. Removing the seating lowered their capacity, he said. The venue's occupancy is calculated as a theater in which the number of seats determines the total capacity with no standing areas allowed, Sue said. When they change their furniture and how everything is configured, we have to go back to reconfigure to keep it up to code. After meeting with the fire marshal, Baker said the Tower Theater's capacity is listed at 693 with the chance of it being raised to 864 with added seats. He admitted, though, that the fire marshal told me laws that I'm unaware of. Fitzgerald's situation has him facing double jeopardy. The unfortunate thing is when they come back, I'm still going to have to pay for sound and lights. I'm still going to have to pay for catering again. I'm still going to have stagehands and security, he told Polestar. Just because the band plays for free, I'm still going to have those other expenses. And if Slipknot can't return, then I have to figure out what actions I'm going to take because they didn't hold their end of the contract, Fitzgerald said. I had all their catering and stagehands and sound and lights and paid them, and they didn't play. Sounds like breach of contract to me. But Kirby has no doubt about rescheduling the show. We don't leave any of these things unfixed, so we are going back to Oklahoma City for the fans, and it will be fixed, he said. The band may return in Oklahoma City and play the larger Diamond Ballroom sometime in February. Other events scheduled for the Tower Theater were also in question. A January 14th Misfit show was relocated to the Diamond Ballroom, and the January 26th Triple Bill featuring 6 Feet Under, Immolation, and Hate Plow may also move, an official at Rave booking said. So that was the Polestar article. There was also another article that made national news. And this one was the one...
Rest in peace, Dave.
This is the one that came from MTV and is still archived on the MTV News website to this day.
But hold on. Now, this was when MTV was still MTV.
Metal.
When still played music.
When people when they were still relevant, when people still watched MTV
White
all the
and
time.
Bleed was kind of in a rotation.
Yes. So this article came out February 28th of 2000. It says, Slipknot has its say on Oklahoma City concert flap. So what really happened when Slipknot rolled in and out of Oklahoma City last month? As we previously reported, the band was slated to play that town's Tower Theater on January 11th and backed out of the show after it became clear that the local promoter had oversold the gig. Specifically, the band canceled their show after learning that the local fire marshal had bumped some of the ticket holders out of the venue to get the crowd down to the legal limit set by the fire code. In explaining the incident to MTV News last month, the spokesperson for the club claimed that the show was only oversold by 20 tickets and that several fans volunteered to turn in their tickets for refunds to appease the fire marshal. He got a twisted version of it. Let us give you the real version of actually what happened, Slipknot's vocalist Corey Taylor, otherwise known as Number 8, told MTV News last week. Number 8, Max. Number 8.
Number 8.
The band contends...
My friend.
The band contends that the show was actually oversold by several hundred tickets. and that the removal of fans was hardly voluntary, with many fans being thrown out of the show. We didn't find out about that until we got there, Taylor explained. We showed up, everybody's ready to play, and then all of a sudden the fire marshal starts throwing his weight around and making everybody sit down, and everybody who was standing got kicked out. Upon learning that many ticket holders had been sent packing, the band decided it was better to not play at all than to play for a depleted crowd. Quote, Corey Taylor. It was a hard decision for us because we hate to cancel any show, but we thought it would be best to come back and play it when all those kids could be there. We were going to come back and play a place that wasn't as corrupt as that place and just do a better show and cut our losses. For its part, the club contends that the fans who did leave the show did so on their own choosing, and the club also contended that after the band pulled the plug on the show, the crowd took out its dissatisfaction on the venue, breaking fixtures. The band is still trying to reschedule an Oklahoma City date and will likely make up the show during a swing through the states following its upcoming European tour. But when Slipknot rolls back through Oklahoma City, it wants nothing to do with the Tower Theater or those who promote it. The guy at the Tower Theater was totally cool with our cancellation, and then he goes in the media and he says we canceled the show for whatever reason, and he says we started a riot, Corey Taylor says. It's all a complete lie, and people need to figure that out. It was a bad gig, man. We learned our lesson, Taylor continued. We're never going to play there again. Percussionist Sean Crahan, number 6, chimes in. We're going to play a place that will hold everybody, and he will not be involved. Other than the Oklahoma City fiasco, things are going pretty damn good for Slipknot, which has managed to go gold with its self-titled album, despite no help from MTV or mainstream rock radio, which we all know is complete BS.
He got 86. 8 and 6 were against him. You got 86, Max.
And Slipknot got lots of video and radio.
Oh, you know what?
Record.
Okay, hold on. First of all, Jay, we agreed before you read those that we wouldn't interrupt. You know how hard it was to keep from laughing or interrupting. But some of that. I mean, some of the stuff did happen in there, and some of it.
But you did laugh. I saw you. I just muted your mics.
Was it a smirk or a laugh?
You know.
Okay, which one are we going to discuss first? The Pulsar article or the MTV News article?
Okay, let me go on to say with the MTV deal, you know,
let's address that one first.
They used to do Kurt Lauder used to do the in the MTV News.
And Tabitha Soren.
Yeah. Okay, so
he did one and broke in.
So yeah, so everyone across the United States knew about that when Kurt Lauder said something about it on
this
MTV.
was pre-internet, pre-anything, pre-radio, but MTV picked that up. And not only did, and you got to look at it this way. Slipknot was starting out on their next major tour that took them to stardom. You know what?
Well, let's see, somewhere in here something happened wrong, because in there Corey says that you were cool with the whole thing, that like at one point it was cool, and then it says that someone went to the media and said something.
Okay, so hold on. When the fire marshal gets there, and the show is basically on hold at this point, where are you, Jeff? Hold on. Where are you, Jeff?
We're at set change. I'm in the office.
You're in the office.
He's in the office with the money.
Where are you, Max?
What I'm doing is going up and down, looking at, because at one point all the stuff was on, all the gear was on the stage. And then my stagehands come and yell at me and say, hey, man, they're pulling the gear. And the longer it went, one piece out the door.
Well, but you were also having to deal with the fire marshal.
Yeah, you've got the fire marshal. Here's what's going on. You've got the fire marshal here just demanding the people to get in working on security.
Questioning the person working the box office. You've got
the stagehands over here working, trying to save the gear to stay in the stage. You got Jeff in the office with the box office money and all of that, getting ready for payouts and everything. So at that point, it becomes kind of like a lockdown. And Jeff is on the phone with David.
Well, yeah, I'm sitting in the office, and I'm on the phone with the promoter, with David Fitzgerald. David Fitzgerald is on the phone with Dave Kirby. Rest in peace, Dave. Yeah. He's no longer with us.
The agent from the agency group.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay. A badass dude.
And he was on the phone with Slipknot's manager,
Okay.
who was on the phone with the tour manager who was sitting next to me.
Okay.
So we had this big
It was a big circle
going
on phone.
because this was before conference calls.
You wanted to say circle jerk. I know you did.
It's really an intense little powwow we were having there.
Because here's what else you got.
Because
You
we
got
need to work something
900
out.
rabid fans out there that aren't, that have seen two bands, and they're saying, okay, it's all cool, we'll figure this out, pay us. And the minute Jeff paid the money,
Well, hold on. Before that, here's what they decided they're going to do. So here's how we're going to make the show go forward as far as the fire marshal's concerned, because nothing's going to happen unless the fire marshal gives the go ahead. He decides we're going to play musical chairs. So
Just like
everyone,
they said.
And the tour manager for the band is involved in this discussion. Is that correct?
well, we're all sitting in the office, and they say this is what's going to happen. I step out there, and that's what's happening. So
Sure.
I step back in the office. So say you were there with your girlfriend, and
Yep.
your girlfriend was in the bathroom.
Yeah,
and
that's
you're
what
sitting
came up.
waiting at the chair, and for her to get back, and they say everyone take a chair or leave, and someone sits in that chair, your girlfriend's out because she doesn't have it. And see,
that was strike one.
and that's not how capacity works anyway.
And so then
So that was the agreement. And so
but then there became another agreement.
so they push all those people out the door. That's phase one
Yeah.
to leave the building. No one else comes in. All those people
You're
go
out.
out.
And
Then-
most of them were voluntarily
and then we think we're done. We're not.
ready to go back to show. So then they come up with something else. And then, so in my mind of thinking, we've done this before. Why don't we find a day where we can do two shows or whatever? They had a day off the next day. But the drive for them was just, they were coming out of Oklahoma City and going to Florida.
We were just trying to figure out a way
And so,
to make this happen
we
and
were
keep
working
everybody
in our
happy.
minds as fast as we could to make sure that the show went on.
And so was the Slipknot people
And
at this
and
point.
here's the thing: the Slipknot guys were good as gold. You got to remember, they had been in my shop all day long and gathering up things, and
Almost bought your prize.
yeah, they
Kiss
and they were
pinball
the
machine.
idea was to load the pinball machine up and see you later.
Like Corey says in the interview, he says, and everything was cool.
So then, but what happened was pretty much.
The fire marshal pulled their second stunt.
Fire marshal pulls a second stunt. We see it's going bad. Most equipment's off the stage. Jeff pays the money.
Well, hold on. So we all agree in this circle that I will pay the money and they will play. And that is the agreement between David and Dave Kirby and
Until it came to us, we had no equipment on stage.
So I paid all the money. And they're still in there doing paperwork. Someone comes in, takes the money, and heads to the bus. And so I've got them filling out the 1099 papers and stuff, and I hear from the stage, Slipknot's decided if everyone can't see the show, no one can see the show.
We're not going to play, And then,
which is just totally against what we just agree with, because believe me, I wouldn't have given up the
and then
money.
so at that point, I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm fucked.
And this rumble starts.
And you
it's
start
this
hearing
low
this
rumble.
it's these
like
people
thunder.
coming out.
It's like thunder.
They're coming out of the thing, beating on shit, kicking walls, and it's like,
I remember they had those cement statues
Yeah.
in the foyer, and they were taking them in. Where they
Throwing
say
them on the
upcoming
ground.
shows and stuff. They were throwing those through the.
So what I did
cement
was
through the glass.
I got bellied up, scared, and I went and hid. There was this little area you could hide in the Choice Music next to the tower, and I remember looking out on 23rd, and it was helicopters and wall-to-wall blocks long of cops.
They even had the riot gear. They had
as they were coming out, And
See, I remember sitting in the office, and when that thunder started, because there was a balcony, and the people
they
started
were jumping up and down,
and they were ripping the chairs out of the balcony and throwing paint down the stairs and stuff. And the tour manager looks at me and says, "So what's that?" I said, That's all those fans. I said,
fans that you
they're
just pissed off.
He said, well,
how can I get to the bus?
He goes, I need security to take me to the bus. I said, dude. I said, it's every dude for himself. I said,
too late at that point, big boy.
I said, this isn't cool. I said, I've got to go through the front doors. And I said, and they want their refund. And I said, you took all the money.
Right.
I said, I got to get to my car.
At that point, I'm going to be forced to tell them that refunds are being issued at the bus.
Listen,
right back there.
My words were every man for himself. It's exactly what I said.
At this point, it didn't really matter, And I mean, so this fiasco goes on. I sit there and watch it through this big plate glass window, and they're looking for me to arrest me, and I knew that. That's why I didn't want to get arrested, so I'm hiding.
And it was getting nuttier by the second. I mean, helicopters and dogs,
and so I can remember when it was all over, and I mean, I had tears in my eyes because.
Oh wait, one thing I want to throw in there. Do you remember the person behind the concession stand? People were trying to come over the concession stand. He had a hammer.
Yeah,
He's trying to defend.
It was every man for himself.
It was crazy.
I mean,
you steal my nacho cheese, you die.
And it was like
it was nuts.
None of it really needed. It could all been worked out, but So then
those were Wagyu hot dogs.
At the end of it all, the people are gone. The cops are gone. They marked it off as a crime scene.
Jeff's gone.
And
I got the hell out of there.
Everybody's gone. And so all I could do was sit in my shop and wonder what's next. And, so then...
it's like it went from everything being great that day to what else could go. Nothing else could go wrong.
So then the sun comes up. I stayed at my shop. The sun comes up. There's two choices in life that you have when you're in deep shit like this. You run and you don't look back, or you open the door and say hello. What's going to happen? And so, at that point, I had to open the door, and
there's trash all up and down the street.
And so I walked through the tower, and then the owner came, and this is something he had built with his heart and his soul, his passion for it. Yeah, it had ran down, but it was still his building, and I can remember the guy looking at me, telling me that he had tears in his eyes, and he was.
Yeah, you said he was crying.
Yeah, and he was like, I'll get with you later. So then I go back over to my store.
Black paint down the street.
I go back over to my store thinking, what's going to happen? And I was like, I had no time to really, because what happened next was another stranger came in and opened the door of the store and said, if I was you, I would take everything out of here before in the morning, or you'll have nothing. And so at that point in time, I didn't know where I was going, what I was going to do, but I landed Choice Music on 59th.
But you got all that stuff out of there.
And we did a massive move all night, pulled an all-nighter. And, so over there at 59th and Choice Music, that was just to get the show done and get out of the building. What happened next was... So people didn't like the answers that they were getting on the tickets, and Slipknot was going to reschedule. And,
But they were listening to MTV and...
and then MTV hit it. Rolling Stone News hit it. It's even CNN hit it.
But they all thought Max was sitting on the money.
And so... They thought at my store, and so it got to the point where, and what no one really knew was once Dave and me got to talk, we came up with the plan to refund money. But what happened with me was...
But you were also talking to Dave Kirby about doing another show.
Right, and Dave was, yeah. And which I wasn't going to be involved in because they had made it perfectly clear, because there's
you were the fall guy.
There's always a fall guy in everything. I was that guy. But what else happened was every day I would go to work, people would call me about the Slipknot thing. I'd have to talk to them.
Yeah, it says right here, we're going to play a place that will hold everybody, and he will not be involved. Percussionist Sean Craig.
And so, people were telling me they were going to come and kill me. They were downright violent.
They wanted their money,
and all the what, $15 ticket or whatever.
It's like that John Cusack
and
movie.
so when I would call them on it, some of them were just it never happened. But I had to live in fear. I had to live in
Hold on. You have never been scared of a Slipknot fan in your life, Max.
No, seriously. Though, but let me ask you a question.
Well, hold on.
You ain't even scared of Juggalo fans.
It ain't about fear. It's about that person leaving you a message on the other end telling him if you don't get his money back, he's going to kill you. It doesn't matter about, at this point I got kids. I got, and look at
so fast forward to the makeup show.
So then it comes to April of the same year, 2000.
Wasn't it Easter?
Yes, Easter Sunday, and they were going to play the site. They played the site hall of the Myriad, and instead of going from 1,000 tickets,
this was the makeup show for the tower.
This was the makeup show, but they put more tickets on sale because it was bigger. The thing went up to about 3,000, 2,500 to 3,000.
Because now Slipknot was huge because of this incident.
And I'll say this till I die. All that press that you just read.
Only
made them bigger than what they were.
Of course.
It made the story. It made people want to go.
Because everyone wanted to go see what was going to happen next.
Everybody wanted to be in some kind of chaos, I paid a heavy price for that,
And if people didn't get to see Slipknot back then, they missed Slipknot in their prime.
So...
No offense to Slipknot now, but back then, like the first time I saw them was Halloween night of 1999. Brady Theater. I have never seen a band that
they're incredible,
full speed dive and tackle your own band member like Lawrence Taylor sacking a quarterback. They were punching each other in the face full force. Like it was the craziest shit I've ever seen.
I dug that. They're incredible, And the fact of the matter is, so here I am with my two boys, Dylan and Austin. We're going to the show.
Easter Sunday.
And where did you get your passes?
I got my passes from the band.
From the band.
And they put me in the soundboard.
Okay, front of house.
Of the show. And so Corey Taylor, he still does this today. Number 8, they tell everybody to get down. And on the count of 3, jump up. Well, he tells everybody this day to get down and to jump up. But he added one other thing to it. I want everybody to say, fuck Max Baker. And mind you, before I went to the show, I talked to him.
Thought everything was cool.
Thought it was cool, and it's like, I got my two boys there. It's pretty, How
old were your kids at that time?
2000, Austin was 3.
So that made Dylan 13.
13, yeah.
So
here they got some dude, their dad, saying "fuck Max Baker," all these people,
3,000 people yelling,
and without me booking them, you people yelling "fuck Max Baker" would have never been there. And so, but that really took me to heart, and what do? You play it off. You hold your head high because you didn't do anything wrong, and you keep going. The tower incident took me to my knees. I lost my record store. I lost the theater with the people that we had, the local scene. So I had to become this shell. How do I go back? How do you come back out of that?
And it was the first show of the new millennium.
Yes. Where we were supposed to die.
We survived YGK.
Yeah. But not only that, we had to find another place for the Misfits for a couple of days later, and 6 Feet Under, and Bo Diddley. So it was to go from that to that, and then here I am back to square one again.
But
okay, true or false? After that, was it in their contract that Max Baker Jr. was not allowed in the building?
In Oklahoma City, you know what? I don't know if it was in their contract. It might have been. I never seen one in person, but I know Jeff's been told that. I know that I not only that, I know that my company has loaded them in, put them on stage, and at 5 o'clock I have to be escorted off the property and come back at 11.
Okay.
I've had to do that a couple of times.
Okay, so fast forward to 2022, and when we had just started recording this podcast last year, you told me that the offer was in place for Slipknot to play the casino in Durant. And it wasn't confirmed yet, and we didn't talk about it on the podcast because we weren't entirely sure that it was going to happen. And then
it happened.
It happened.
Oh, did it happen?
And the show was sold out in advance.
It was the smallest
It was the smallest show
on the
2022 tour of Slipknot in
smallest
America.
Capacity and smallest stage.
As they said from the stage, it was the smallest capacity show they'd ever played in 20 years.
But they put full production in there.
And
Okay.
we put everything in there.
All right.
In fact, there's video of it on YouTube, and it's badass.
So were the Baker Boys the load-in production
We
team?
were the preferred client, and we wore it well, and we were very proud of it.
Okay. So were you there?
I read the whole thing.
Did you watch the show?
I watched the show from start to finish. I was responsible for all the 50, 60 stagehands we had.
We were there from load in to load out.
Did you see any of the members of Slipknot?
The band at the casino that I work at, and I've been there 18 years, everybody has to walk down the same hallway. It's not like that. Everybody has to walk down the same hallway.
So the answer is yes.
And it's like, I never saw the guys in the band coming in. I did, but we never really made eye contact. And plus, I had a super cool friend on that tour too that, we're talking a very hard show. Not only was it hard, but you got to remember, it was the first metal show to play in a major casino in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. That speaks volumes.
Huge. Because casinos traditionally have strayed away from metal completely.
And here's the thing. It was an experiment, and it worked. Boy, did it work. I'm sure more will be
It's the first time that the casino had gone in that direction, that genre of music.
But it never would have worked had you not, I had the experience. And plus, knowing that they were coming there, there's a part inside of me that, it's like very hurt and bitter. Mm-hmm. But then, you can't, in this kind of business, you can't wear your feelings on the sleeve.
The one thing Max, for certain, you can't book with your heart when you're booking bands. You can't just book your favorite bands because you're never going to make money out of it. And if you turn down gigs because you had your feelings hurt, you're never going to make money.
That's right.
Well, you won't have a job for the day or whatever. But
sometimes you just have to be a professional and just.
But in my 35 years of doing this business and doing rock and roll and still loving it, and it is my passion, the greatest gift that could ever been given to me, and I'm blessed for it, is not only that, I got to put on a major production by Slipknot and In This Moment and Wigwam or whatever. And, we got to do a major show
and it went off without any problems.
To the like they said, playing to the smallest crowd they've played in 20 years. But the greatest feeling on earth was each one of those guys, when they leave, like I said, the hallway is for everyone. And I got to sit on a box and tell them thanks for coming. So they got paid well.
So if we base this off of all the paperwork that we have for this show, 1,000 tickets for sale for January 11th. And the fire marshal comes in and changes that number to 880 after the doors are already open. So that's 120 ticket discrepancy. If that show were to be in the Tower Theater today, you would be 14 under the legal capacity. You wouldn't even be over. You would be under the amount.
Correct. Now, the Polestar article that you read said that there was only 900 tickets sold. I don't think that's true. I think it was 1,000.
Because you showed me the offer sheet for the Misfits, which was supposed to be the 14th, and it said 1,000 tickets available.
Correct.
So that's going to be the same for Slipknot.
Guess what? If you were booking a show today and you had an offer sheet, what would you put on the offer sheet?
1,000 tickets.
1,000 tickets. Absolutely.
1,000 tickets.
So at
the end of the day, really nothing was done wrong. Somewhere there's a paperwork discrepancy that we never got to see. We never got to even see.
Well,
that we never saw the card that said 880 on it, signed by a fire marshal.
I'll give you another one. The ticket, I never got it.
You never got the citation.
Boy, you're
what?
You're lucky the statute of limitations is wore out. They'll be hitting you up.
That's a $750 citation, Max.
Plus interest.
Plus interest.
What did you just say?
How many years has it been, Jeff? 23?
It's 23 as of today.
Yeah, surely the statute of limitations is run out on that.
I think you're all right, Baker.
I mean, it just, if you go back,
maybe Corey Taylor will pay that citation
for mine. When you go back to that day, knowing it was going to be a great day, and it still was a great day, just didn't end up how I wanted it to. It didn't kill me. The other part of it was too, there was a lot of pain and a lot of heartache that I've had to endure. A
lot of hate.
A lot of hate. I mean, to have 2,500 people yell your name, fuck Max Baker, and whoever created that fuck Max Baker shirt, thank you.
So, Max, let me ask you a question. We're 23 years later. Where do you stand with Corey and Slipknot, and how do you feel about it now? I mean,
it's just another day for me. I mean, basically, I've let it go.
So the hatchet's buried as far as you're concerned.
My thing of it is, if you want to bring that up, that's their deal. I mean, the fact of the matter is.
But if Corey Taylor walked up to you and stuck his hand out, are you going to shake it?
I'd shake it within a heartbeat and tell him, man, thanks for making me a better person.
Well, there you go. Now,
That's it.
That'd be awesome.
That's it. That's the end.
That's perfect.